Have you ever wondered what to do with all those wonderful fall apples? When the fall apples are in season and you're able to get bushels and bushels of them, what are some perfect ways to use those apples? Well, I am here to tell you my secret to keeping it simple and doing multiple things in one process. We were very fortunate to receive these beautiful organic apples from Azure Standard Organic. Now, you notice there are some blemishes. These are not perfect condition. These are what they call juicing apples. So, usually when I cut them open, they're perfectly fine inside. But some of them are going to have a bad spot in the center where a worm had crawled in, which is because they're organic, so that makes me happy. So these, all I have to do is quarter these apples. I quarter them, and that's it. I'm done. I put them in my pot. Boom. Easy. And you see some of the ones I've already cut up. You see that? It had a worm in it. You see the little worm? So although some of you may be a little squeamish about the worm in the apple, it makes me really happy because then I know that they weren't sprayed with a bunch of pesticides. Plus, because they were the blemished apples, I was able to get 20 pounds of apples, organic apples, for $18. That's less than $1 a pound. I am so thrilled and happy about this. So what we're gonna do today is we are gonna quarter them, cut off any bad spots, throw away any worms, and put them into our compost. All of the good quarters are gonna go into our pot. We're gonna cover it with water, and we're gonna let it cook and simmer. So that is the first step to making cider, juice, applesauce, and apple cider vinegar. How, you ask? Am I gonna do all that with just one pot? You just see. I'm a miracle worker. I'm an apple ninja. But my first step is to get all these apples cut up and get the bad spots removed. So I'm gonna work on that, and then I'm gonna get back to the camera. It really is quite simple. Once you have all of your apples cut up and in the pot, you cover them with water till they're submerged in water. That water is going to become your apple cider or your apple juice, whichever you prefer. I normally do this where I use an even bigger pot than this. This is my 2-gallon pot, I think. And so I'm just going to fill it up with as many apples as I can fit in here. And then I'm going to fill it up with as much water as I can use to cover them. And I'm just going to let it simmer. Once I'm done simmering it, I have to strain it very gently. So the first strain is going to be to get the water off. And that water is no longer water anymore. It's now full of apple everything. And that apple juice now can be made into apple cider. So to make it into apple cider, we just let it ferment. We just allow it to sit at room temperature and ferment. That easy. I'm not kidding. But when you use organic apples, they still have natural yeast on them, and they are going to be healthy and create a great environment for a ferment. So we strain the liquid off and we put it in bottles. So I can just use a mason jar if that's all I have. But I do have 1-gallon fermenting bottles that we use for making wine and such. Then all of that pulp, don't press the pulp at all yet. You want to take all of that because it's still, I'm not going to press it or stir it really. I might stir it gently, but the apples are still going to come out in this shape. They're still going to be apples. So once I strain the apples from the liquid, the next step is to make applesauce. Now I remember why I always use my big pan. See, if you're not careful, those apples start to float as they start cooking. So I am like really having to be careful here, keeping those apples from spilling over the top. But it's best to keep the lid on as much as you can. And I am going to put the lid back on. I am doing this on medium heat. You can do it on a lower simmer if you're not in a rush or anything. And you're just gonna do this, keep cooking those apples down until they're nice and soft. Pretty much where you can poke your finger through your apple, that's pretty much where the softness is. So I'm not trying to break these apples up as I stir, I'm just trying to keep them rotated so that the ones on the bottom are just as cooked as the ones on the top. When I'm finished, I'm gonna put it through a strainer, and I'm gonna strain the apples and reserve the liquid in my bowl. That liquid is my apple juice or apple cider, whichever I want to make it into. The apple juice is already done. You can sweeten it if you want, but we never have had to. And we use all different kinds of apples. It doesn't matter what kind of apple you use. After we strain it, we take all of that apple chunks, all of the chunks that are left, and we run them through a food mill. So if you have a food mill that you manually crank, that's great. That'll work just fine, like a Folly food mill. Or if you have a KitchenAid attachment, that'll also work. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna separate the apple pulp from the peels and the stem and the seeds and such. So then you have two things left over from that process. You have apple sauce, already made. It's already soft. It's already ground up from the Folly mill, from milling it through, whichever way you do it. And then you have all these seeds and stems and stuff. Well, what do you do with all that? Do you put it in the compost yet? Not yet. Not yet. Now, a lot of people just do the juice and then throw away these apples. They don't even do anything with them. It blows my mind. Now, after I have all of these skins and stems, I'm going to take those and put them into a glass jar, cover them with water, add a little bit of sugar, just a little bit, just enough to feed the yeasties, because that is what I'm going to use to ferment into vinegar. So my apples are really cooked. You see how squishy they are? Perfect. So now I can strain them and reserve the liquid as my juice. So now that the apples are done cooking and the liquid has turned into a wonderful, delicious apple juice, I need to strain it. But I just strained my bone broth. So these two bowls need to be emptied before I can do the apples. So I'm gonna get my bone broth strained and put that away so that I can strain these apples. I'm gonna go ahead and turn them off though while I finish cooking the rest of my dinner. You gotta love it, multitasking. I'm gonna put the lid back on and let it continue to simmer just a little bit longer while it's cooling down. And really, let's be honest, it's probably best that I let it cool down anyway, because if it splashes on me while it's boiling hot, I may get a serious burn. And I'm likely to splash a little. Alright, I got impatient while dinner was cooking and pulled out another bowl and colander so that I could go ahead and get this done. And so what I did was I ladled off the apples from the liquid and put them into this strainer. I have to have a bowl underneath it to collect more of that juice underneath. Now, one of the things that I know I've had other people say is that this isn't as juicy as they expected it to be. To me, it tastes pretty darn good. But if you don't think that it's got a concentrated enough apple flavor, or if it's not sweet enough, if you used really tart apples, I can see where it might not be as sweet as you're used to, you can add a sweetener if you want, or you can just boil this down. Just go ahead and boil it. Let some of that water boil off and you'll have a more concentrated flavor, if that's what you want to do. I like it just like this. It's not sweet. But it tastes like apples. I mean, it's apple juice, but it's definitely not as sweet as most apple juice. For me, that's preferred. I like that. So this needs to cool off more and then I can bottle it. And we have some apple juice. And then these here will become my applesauce. So each one of these will get crushed and smashed through the food processor. Not food processor, but the food mill. And the seeds and stems and peels will all be separated from the pulp. And there'll be a delicious applesauce coming out one end and seeds and stems coming out the other. And I don't know if I have enough counter space to pull out my KitchenAid to do that right this minute. So I'll get back with you soon. Alright, I pulled out the big guns. Got my big old KitchenAid mixer with its fancy attachment. This is the food strainer attachment that I got, you know, probably 20 years ago. It's been a while. Had it for a while, and I use it for applesauce every year. So this has been a worthwhile investment. The apples are still pretty hot to touch, so I am going to use my ladle and scoop up some apples. And I'm going to place them into the hole. And I'm going to mash them down into the hole. And I'm going to mash them down into the hole on low power. And it will make applesauce and yummy stuff for vinegar. Alright, you ready? Watch the magic. Like I said, you can do this with a manual food mill if you have one. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy a KitchenAid mixer, but if you have one, it does make things a lot easier. Alright. Just push this through. Oh. And as you see, the applesauce is coming out the extraction tube, which is pulled forward too high. I need to move that down a little bit or it's going to spill. And then I use a bowl on this end to catch what we call the poop, because that's what it looks like. But this poop is going to make a wonderful, wonderful vinegar. And then Rowan, let him do that one, and then you can do this one.
You do the apple, I do this.
Are you guys helping?
Yep.
You making, what are you making, Rowan?
Applesauce.
Yum. Are you excited, Liam?
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Me too. It is filling up. And there you have it, folks. Beautiful homemade applesauce.
Can I try some?
Not out of the pan. Let's get you a little taste bowl, huh?
This is how they eat applesauce.
How is it?
Good. I like it so much.
Good. How about you, Liam? Yummy! Good. I'm glad you boys love it. So good?
You're helping together.
We were all helping. That's right. Good job, buddy. I think they like it.
More, please.
Yep. You can have more with your dinner. That's our side dish tonight. Yeah. That was just a taste so you guys could taste your hard work. It's yummy. Alright guys, that was fun, wasn't it? So now we have all of the peels and stuff. What do we do with that? Do we put it in the compost? No! We make something else with it because we don't waste anything in this house. So this can be turned into vinegar. So I'm going to put this in a jar, cover it completely with water, and add, yeah, maybe a 1/4 cup of sugar just to get the fermentation process going strong. And as it ferments, I will put a paper towel or a coffee filter or a fabric sheet over the top and hold it tight with a rubber band. And make sure that I keep it stirred if I need to, but really what we're looking for is it to start fermenting, and it goes through a process somewhat like making wine, and it's going to ferment and go through the alcohol stage. And then I'm going to strain off all of the fruit and drain out what's left, and then that can go in the compost. Wait, no, not in the compost. Feed it to the chickens. Yeah, baby. We make everything useful in this house. So we take all that apple pulp and you put it in a jar with water and sugar and you let it ferment, and then you strain off the fruit and you use that alcohol type fluid that's left, and you put a cover over it. You take that liquid and you cover it with a breathable material so that no flies can get in. But this time I like to add either a vinegar mother that I've saved from a previous batch of homemade vinegar, or a splash of live active culture apple cider vinegar. That helps get the culture going in the right direction. It will naturally turn into vinegar without that, but it really does help speed up the process, and it can take a while after that. So after that, I just keep an eye on it, taste it from time to time, and make sure that it's going into the vinegar realm. And once it's a nice strong vinegar, I can put a cap on it and I've got vinegar to use. All from one batch of apples. I've got apple juice, apple sauce, and apple cider vinegar. Who would have thought? I mean, it's crazy how many people throw away these things and don't even use them when you could make so much more with it. So I hope this has helped you guys. I hope that you guys will try this. Let me know how it works out for you. Let me know if you have any questions. I've been doing this for several years now, so it's I haven't had any hiccups, but if you do have any hiccups, let me know. I'll try and help you through it. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching. You know the drill. We'll see you next time on Wholesome Roots. Oh, that's so good. Oh, you caught me. Sticker. That's all, folks.